Why should Ivorians dissolve the IEC, Independent Electoral Commission? Part 1. Dear followers. This is a serious time. An unprecedented betrayal of the popular will is playing out in Côte d'Ivoire, and this orchestrated maneuver is hidden under the mask of an Independent Electoral Commission, IEC, which is independent, in name only. This instrument of Alassane Ouattara's regime has become a machine for crushing the voice of the people, depriving each citizen of their sacred right to freely choose their future. The two questions I was asked regarding the two conflicting decisions. When we open the revision of the electoral list, the Electoral Commission writes to the Ministry of Justice to tell it that the Electoral Code prescribes that, on the occasion of the revision of the electoral list, we must remove people who have died, we must remove people who have lost their rights, who have lost their voter status, such as people who are unduly registered on the electoral list. As you are the one who holds the judicial file of people deprived of their civil and political rights, can you give us the list of these people? The ministry executes. We are writing to the Ministry of the Interior which manages civil status in Côte d'Ivoire. Service which receives death declarations. Can you give us the list of people who died? These two lists are compared with the electoral list and we take out all the deceased people who are on the electoral list, and who are on the list of the Ministry of the Interior and those on the list of the Ministry of Justice who have lost their civil and political rights. It is on this basis that these people are removed from the electoral list. When we do it, as in the case of President Gbagbo, I do not want us to focus our interventions on President Gbagbo, but if you bring me there, it is current affairs, we will do it. So President Gbagbo is on this list. Since President Gbagbo is on this list, the consequence is his removal. In reality, our decision came before the referral to the African Court of Human Rights. It is because we did not grant the request of President Gbagbo's lawyers that they took the matter to the African Court of Human Rights, because our decision to remove President Gbagbo from the electoral list. And the African Court of Human Rights, I grant you, learned a contrary decision. But Mr. Bengali, simply remember that the decisions of an international court do not apply de facto within a sovereign country. Article 30 of the Protocol establishing the African Court of Human Rights says this. The states parties undertake to comply with the provisions and decisions of the African Court of Human Rights and to ensure their execution. But for this, it is not the Electoral Commission which is party to this protocol. I am an entity of a sovereign state. It is up to the African Court to notify this decision to the state of Côte d'Ivoire. And the state of Côte d'Ivoire takes the necessary measures for the application and to ensure the execution of these decisions. I know that this decision exists, but I am not authorized to execute it without this decision being notified to the state. That's how it's done. You see, even in the judicial context, when a decision comes from elsewhere, it must be executed. Exequatur consists of making the decision enforceable on the national territory. I cannot de facto, even if I know it, of my own accord, carry out this decision. It must be notified to those who are parties, that is to say who officially and constitutionally represent the state abroad. And these inform us what to carry out this decision. This is how it is done in a state of law, and it is not unique to Côte d'Ivoire. There is an African wisdom which says, even if you know that something is yours, wait until someone gives it to you. I know that this decision exists, but legally speaking, I cannot execute it because there are measures to be taken. I'll tell you why. Article 12 says what? The court's decisions regarding the electoral list cannot be appealed. And when President Gbagbo was removed from the electoral list, his lawyers contacted the Independent Electoral Commission in 2020. They asked him to include him on the electoral list. We told them that we cannot register him because there is a court decision which has become final, and which means that he cannot be registered on the electoral list. To this end, they contacted the Plateau Court. The Plateau Court confirmed the decision. In doing so, the decision is not subject to appeal, since it is Article 12 which says so. And Article 12 of the Electoral Code, which is nothing other than the expression of the will of the people, of the deputies of Côte d'Ivoire. With this in mind, a regional decision from an African court takes the opposite view of this decision, but it is first necessary to modify this provision which says that the court's decisions are not subject to appeal. Because this decision goes against a decision which says that it is not subject to appeal. So these are national measures to be taken first, and these national measures can be administrative, constitutional, jurisdictional, or even political. So, that is to say, measures which can lead to a modification of the law, a constitutional modification or the annulment of an administrative act or even the resumption of a trial. These are the national measures that are taken first so that the Commission can execute the decision. But as long as this decision has not been notified to the Commission so that it can execute it, I am not listening at the doors. That's what it's all about. I would like to end on this point. I am told that it is £2 2 measures. But what do you know about it? There are cases, especially concerning people who were in the same situation as President Gbagbo. The 2018 law, the 2018 amnesty law which said this, all people who find themselves in the same situation as President Gbagbo could benefit from this amnesty law, provided that they are not among the following three cases. First case, personalities on trial before an international judicial body. Second case, the military. Third case, armed groups. These are the three cases which were excluded from the benefit of the 2018 amnesty law. In doing so, President Gbagbo was not present. He was in court. This is why he did not benefit from this. Minister Blay Gowdy was also in court, which is why he did not benefit from this. But everyone who was not in the three cases all benefited from amnesty. This is why Mr. Kadi Nan is on the electoral list. This is why Mr. Akim Bo finds himself on the electoral list because he benefited from the amnesty law. Faced with this pillaging of our democracy, it is imperative to react. This is why Ivorians must demand the immediate dissolution of this corrupt and manipulated institution. I prefer to warn. It's because I don't want Côte d'Ivoire to burn, that's why I'm saying this now. It's not after that, I'm going to come and make big speeches. It's now. The IEC, the one I see, will burn Ivory Coast. Those who have short memories and who do not recognize anything, I was Prime Minister, and it was me who organized the 2010 election. This IEC cannot organize the 2020 election. Still, let us recognize Gbagbo, the merit that the IEC was chaired by his adversary and his opponents. The IEC is only a ghost of independence, a tool of domination in the service of the Ouattara clan. Since its creation, it has been modeled to favor the power in place. With an overwhelming composition in favor of the RHDP, the regime controls all stages of the electoral process. At the central level, 13 of the 17 members are close to power. Of the 490 presidents of local commissions, almost all serve the interests of the RHDP. A locked system and a network of influence and manipulation transform each vote into a charade whose results are predetermined. Far from protecting us, the IEC stands against us, depriving every Ivorian of their power. This is not the first time that the IEC has shown passivity in the face of electoral fraud. In 2010, then in 2020, this institution remained silent in the face of electoral violence and blatant manipulation of results. Even more serious, during these elections, polling stations in areas favorable to the opposition were closed or deliberately delayed, thus showing the complicity of the IEC in the deprivation of the democratic rights of Ivorians. This system doesn't just rig votes, it also steals the future of our children and stifles the hopes of our youth. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch denounce thousands of fictitious voters fraudulently registered in the regime's strongholds, while young people, mainly opposed to power, are removed from the lists. These anomalies on the lists are not errors, they are the result of a cold and calculated plan to manipulate each vote. We must protect young people, ensure young people have a future where they are not muzzled, where they can stand up and make their voices heard without fear of being crushed by an oppressive power. Fraud does not only concern electoral lists. The IEC deliberately limits the access of international and national observers to certain key stages of the electoral process, preventing any impartial assessment. In 2020, the publication of the results was also delayed, creating a climate of suspicion. This lack of transparency demonstrates the extent to which the IEC has become a tool of manipulation, in the pay of the regime. To maintain power, the regime goes so far as to bargain for Ivorian citizenship. Nationality, the symbol of our belonging, is sold to those who are ready to support it. According to independent investigations, more than 100,000 ineligible individuals have fraudulently acquired Ivorian nationality. I came today to tell you that there is a boon available to us. We call it Special Operation and it will end in March 2025. What is it? The state of Côte d'Ivoire, the president issued a decree, a law to ensure that all Ivorian children or not, Baouli or not, who exist in Côte d'Ivoire must be declared in the civil status files. So that in development programming, his children can be taken into account. Sometimes we were told that the father did not have identification documents. He says it doesn't matter. They say the father's father doesn't even have an identity document. He says it doesn't matter. Anyone in this situation, before December 2024, please, when I leave here, I will leave a list. They must be recorded. Those who don't have papers, their fathers don't have papers, their children don't have papers, you really have to register them all and then you submit that to the sub-prefecture. We will do the rest of the procedure, go to court, etc. They don't even call you there. We ask you to give us 2 witnesses who can attest that this child was indeed born, and that his father's name is that, his mother's name is that, he is from a certain village, he is Ivorian or he is not Ivorian. Just give us this information. We take care of the rest and it's free. We just ask you to pay the stamp to have a souvenir copy. The day he's old enough to go to school or something, so you have the room. The second scenario, the one who was declared and then a long time ago, he did not come by to make a copy of his papers. Like here when we are chased out it is the civil registry that we burn. When he goes there is no more register, because we burned the sub-prefecture, we were angry so there is no more register. But he has an old copy. Here again, we say it doesn't even matter. You have to send the old copy, we will restore your identity. That makes 2 scenarios. That is to say, there is a first case where there is not even any paper, he is undocumented, he has nothing at all. And there is a second case where he has an old paper and at the town hall, we cannot find it. He is not found at the sub-prefecture. It is not found in the registers. Come see us, we will restore the person's identity and it's free. The last scenario is the one who had a first identity card, finally, who was declared for the first time somewhere. And like me, we managed to advance in our studies. At a certain point, I started to get older, he had a first diploma, he left it. He went to start somewhere else. That's 2. Or I didn't know anything, my brother got by, he got his diplomas and then he died, I took that. It exists, doesn't it? Or, I took someone's papers and then I studied with them and today, I succeeded. The gentleman is jealous. He said these are my papers and that created some chatter. It doesn't matter, you won't go to prison. You have to come. Your diplomas will remain your diplomas. We're going to take your old paper, we're going to give him his papers and he's not going to blackmail you anymore. Otherwise if he is sick, he will come and extort you. If he's hungry, he'll come and extort you. He's going to blackmail you all the time. My friend, if you don't give, I'm going to say that you took my papers. The state of Côte d'Ivoire says that we are no longer in it. There are no more arguments like this. We want social cohesion. Both of you, come on, we will give everyone the papers. There is no prison, there is no argument. Everyone will have their identity card. You keep your diplomas. You keep your job. But be careful. From March 2025, this will no longer be possible. We take you with this, you go to prison. I won't accompany you to the prosecutor's office. Whereas now, you give me your papers, I'm going to the prosecutor with them and you have nothing to do with it. The day the decision comes out, I transcribe it, you come and pay 1,000 francs for your stamps and I will give you your copy. Have we understood correctly? End of part 1. Chris Yapi does not lie. Find Chris Yapi on his 2 YouTube channels, his Rumble channel, his TikTok, X, Instagram, VK and Threads accounts.